Winning City. Morning, Tom.
Good morning, Bill.
So, a surprise for Bristol to win this? Were they expecting it?
Well, they were certainly among three cities, Manchester and Leicester being the other two, bidding hard for this money. It's a pretty big investment in cycling here, and they aim to double the number of people cycling in this city. Now, it has to be said that Bristol is already fairly good for cyclists. There's quite a lot of cycle lanes, but I went out with a regular cycle commuter yesterday, and she said that really still more could be done. Her biggest concern was that there was too much traffic and that traffic had sway over cyclists on the roads. One of the big things they're going to do here is to introduce a French-style bicycle hire scheme. So there'll be hire stations with bicycles in them around the city. You're able to pick a bike up from one, cycle it to another and drop the bike off. One of the ideas to try and get more people cycling here.
OK, Tom, thank you very much.
Well, let's speak to the Transport Secretary, Ruth Kelly, who's here with us. Morning to you.
Good morning.
Why Bristol? Why has Bristol been chosen?
Well, I'm really excited about Bristol because it's got some fantastic plans for encouraging even more people to get on their bikes. And as your correspondent has been saying, one of them is being able to pick up a bike, put your credit card in, hire the bike for an hour or so, and then deliver it at the other end. And they're going to combine that, I think, with a sort of bike superhighway, so a dedicated cycling infrastructure, so people don't have to worry about incoming traffic and so forth.
How can you be sure that that means that they're getting out of their cars rather than perhaps stopping using buses?
Because that's what people say they want. They have safety concerns, of course. In fact, cycling is a bit safer than people sometimes suppose. But I think more and more people would be inclined to use a bike if all the infrastructure was there, if they felt they could pick up a bike, return it at the other end, and in fact, importantly, be able to change clothes. You know, if you're a lady going to work, put your makeup on, do your hair in a sort of dedicated place at the end before you go to work.
60 bikes for hire in Bristol. In Paris, similar scheme, 20,000 bikes. Isn't this just a sort of symbolic, cosmetic exercise?
I don't think so, and Bristol have some very exciting plans for the future, and one of the things we're doing today is launching a £100 million package to encourage towns and cities like Bristol to really change the way that they think about cycling and encourage more people to take up the habit. So in future, cycling, Bristol wants to double the number of people that use their bike, and we could see levels approaching 1 in 5 of the population using their bike regularly, and that approaches the sorts of levels you see in Amsterdam or other places in Europe that have the highest levels of cycling.
We've had lots of emails in, many of them actually saying, why are you spending so much money on cyclists? Shouldn't they be paying road tax? Shouldn't they have to have insurance? They're quite hostile, actually.
Well, we certainly don't have any plans for that. And in fact, most people, when you ask them, think cycling is a really good idea. It's not just good for people's health, which it clearly is, but it's good for the environment and good for congestion too. And if we can get more people onto their bikes, and of course a quarter of all journeys, short journeys under 2 miles, you know, are made by car, so there's real potential here, then that would not just be good for the individual, it would be good for the whole town or city.
To get people on their bikes, they've got to feel safe. And a lot of cyclists don't. I mean, Louise cycles in and you nearly hit by something the other day.
Yeah, I was nearly hit yesterday by
well, well done for cycling, because it is really good, and you're
But how are you going
absolutely
to how are you going to get this idea across to people across Britain that it is okay that you won't be killed on your way to work?
Well, of course, there's always a risk of accident, no matter what way of travelling to work you choose. But in fact, the number of serious accidents that are sort of caused by cyclists, or indeed that cyclists result from, has been falling steeply over the past 10 years or so, despite more people travelling by bike. But you're right, people want it to get even safer, and I think what they're looking for is sort of dedicated cycle highways, better infrastructure, better signage, and so forth. And it's towns and cities like Bristol that are going to showcase the way for the rest of the UK, so that other towns will be able to look and see what they're doing, and then I hope copy that best practice.
OK, just really quickly, that 2 mile target, do you do journeys of 2 miles on your bike rather than getting in the car?
I took the bike out yesterday to have a go, just to prove that it's never too late, and that it's really true when people say that you never forget how to ride a bicycle, so I do my little bit.
Yes, OK. All right, thank you.
Ms. Kelly, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I had a lot of emails in about this morning. They're still sort of flying into us now. George asking where the 50 billion in tax the motorist pays to the Treasury actually goes. So he's thinking more should be done with that money. And Susan in Cheshire says, unlike the cyclists we were speaking to earlier, cyclists don't adhere to the rules of the road, fail to indicate as you were putting to Ruth Kelly, as she often sees cyclists putting themselves in peril and is surprised there aren't more accidents. Of course, there's the other side of the argument, as well as you were just illuminating a moment ago.
Yes, any more thoughts on that, do send them to us here at breakfast. It is 18 minutes past 7. Coming up on the programme today, why we're falling in love with chick lit. We went to an awards ceremony.